Well, don't double click.
I double clicked. I did double click. He caught me. I double clicked the video intro. But it's all good. Welcome everyone to Helping the Brave podcast today. I'm one of your hosts, Mohawk Matt Denny.
And he's on Wi-Fi.
And again.
There you go. So I'm Ed Parkho, the other host, and our guest today is Marcus. Marcus, what's your last name? Because it's not on the screen.
Yeah. My last name is Kuiper, Kuiper, but a little bit easier to say Marcus, I think. So went with that today.
All right, I'm gonna let Amy in. Hey,
All
Amy.
right.
Way to be. You must be Army because you're late to the game.
Hey.
Well, some of us have day jobs.
We all have day jobs.
Right.
Am I coming through better now? I changed internets.
Yes, you're better now. Before you were.
Well, I'm Mohawk Matt Denny. Ed introduced himself. We got Amy Tiemeyer. Tiemeyer? I always mess up your name.
Tiemeyer.
I know. We talk daily, but I still mess it up. And Ed, did you introduce him when I lost connectivity?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you can go ahead and because he's your buddy.
All right. So welcome everyone to Helping the Brave podcast. Today I'm excited to have a good friend of mine, Marcus, which sounds weird for me to say his first name, Marcus Kuiper, who I served with back in 2009, I think we figured out, many years ago in the Marine Corps. So I'm pumped to have two Marines getting up on the Navy and Soldier today. So usually I'm running alone.
That's okay.
So, but I can still take them. So Marcus, how's it going?
It's good. Thank you for having me. I was a little short notice. I know we were on the phone last night, just catching up. So I was very glad that you asked me to be a part of this. So thank you for having me. Thank you guys. Great to meet you guys. I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. And we're going to get right into it and kind of tell us. So we kind of talked about the podcast is to help people learn different lessons learned through transitioning, whether you're transitioning, getting into the military, which has actually been a topic that's come up quite a bit with some other guests, whether you're transitioning in while you're still in and changing jobs, or when you're getting out, or in your case, getting out and then becoming what you became, which I'm not going to say, and you can share that. So tell us your story and journey and how it all started from before.
Yeah. So I was probably just a typical kid with not a ton of direction. I was very fortunate when I was in high school. My dad and I was a wrestler, wrestled through high school. Both of them were pretty strict. A lot of things kept things pretty well in line for the most part. And I was working at a rental place, just like setting up tents, chairs, that kind of stuff in the summer. And then I came home and typical recruiter fashion, I got a cold call with they left a message and my dad goes, "Hey, this might be a good thing to kind of explore." And so we called back, we gave him the time of day a little bit, went down there and he does the whole spiel, sells me on everything. And like a typical kid, I didn't put a lot of thought into it. I was ready pretty much to sign that night. And I believe I did. I think we actually signed that night. And so really just by total chance, the Marines called first. Looking at how I kind of handled it, it could have been the Navy, it could have been the Army, probably could have been the Air Force. It just was, they called first. And I was not really ready to go to college, I guess. I was a typical high school kid. I did average in school, C's, B's, couple of A's here and there, but homework wasn't really for me. I kind of liked being physical with the wrestling and stuff like that. Didn't have a ton of hobbies outside of that. So it was the easy choice, I would say. But then I found out, it wasn't super easy, the whole process. But yeah, you go through boot camp, you become you earn the title Marine and all that good stuff. You get orders to Dinfos, which is where I met you. So yeah, that was kind of how it all started, was really just by chance. They called first. I didn't really get an opportunity I had the opportunity. I just chose not to explore the other options. I think it was like, this is just the easy thing. I don't have to, really think much more about it after this. So I signed the paper, and he was a good salesman, and off I went. It was a pretty easy start to the whole journey, I would think.
That's fantastic. And Marines always first in the fight. So
Yeah, it worked out. It worked out.
there's a lot of good metaphors in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Ed, you look like you're gonna say something.
Well, I don't want to jump in. But what was your job? MOS? What was in the?
Yeah. So when we went to, I didn't actually know what my job was going to be. The recruiter I had, I guess, looking back, I think I was his like first or second recruit. So he was pretty, I would say, unseasoned with everything. And he actually put me down as a media option. I didn't know what a media option was, and I didn't really care. I didn't know any better myself. And so we got through MCT, or Marine Combat Training, and all that stuff. And then I got orders, and it said I was going to be a combat videographer and documentation specialist. And I was going to the Defense Information School, and it was a lot of words that they crammed into that piece of paper. And so I still didn't really pay much mind to it, but I ended up in Maryland. And then there was a mix-up. There was actually a guy with the same last name as me, John Kuiper. So our paperwork got mixed up. He got into school, and I just sat there for about a year before I actually got into class and even knew what I was going to do. And so it actually gave me a lot of time to just kind of explore sort of the Baltimore, DC area a little bit. I got to meet a lot of great people. Matt was one of them. And then I finally got into class and graduated and all of that good stuff. I think like November of 2008, I finally had graduated that class, and I had got orders as a combat video guy out to 3rd MAW, which is the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing. So I was super, super lucky and really excited to go back out to San Diego, because another good friend of mine that I had met while I was in Maryland was living in San Diego. His parents were in Anaheim, so we always had a place to go on the weekends and stuff. So it was really quite a good deal. But yeah, I was a combat videographer, and was kind of stationed out in San Diego for really the entire 5 years that I was there. I deployed a couple of times, but I never got orders or had to PCS to like Okinawa or Lejeune or anything like that. I really just did my whole tenure in San Diego, which just could not be a better place to be for 5 years as a young guy. It was really a good time. And I apologize, I'm sick. I got a little bit of the sniffles. So if I sound kind of nasally, I really do apologize. I'm sure it's tough to listen to.
Yeah, I was stationed in San Diego for 5 years, 5 months, and 14 days, but who was counting? And it was the best time. And at Camp Pendleton, at the hospital at Camp Pendleton. So
yeah, it's so nice out there. It's just the weather's good, the beach is there, Oceanside's okay, but San Diego is really awesome. That's a great place to be.
Yeah.
Great
Well,
place.
and I think that's important to remember that Miramar is where you were, and
Mhm.
Pendleton. They're two different.
Yeah,
they're both San Diego, but they're like an hour apart.
Yeah, they're about 30, 35 miles apart from one another.
yeah, the old Navy base.
Yeah, exactly.
Because El Toro wing went there, right? And that's because that's where we used to do the Volkslauf out
Yeah.
at the El Toro. So
Yeah. So since Marcus, reminder, we are live. So anyone that's watching us out there, and because I do know that Marcus's family started sharing this around the Facebook,
Oh no,
and
Not
commenting
the
a bunch.
Facebook, the
The
Facebook.
Facebook. I was referencing the old. Just hey, it's been a day, right? No. So if anyone's out there, you got questions, comments, throw them out. Kuiper, you did get one. Hey, you can't see it because her name's blocked, but this is Wharton was her maiden name, Abby Wharton, if you remember her.
It sounds familiar, yeah, but I feel like we probably only crossed paths in Maryland. I don't know that I ever got to see her again. Was she PAO at the time? Is that what's coming to mind? I feel like maybe, if I remember right, she might have ended up either in the East Coast or Okinawa, I feel like, but I can't recall.
She was in Okinawa with me.
Gotcha.
And so, well, and that's part of that military is you kind of find your crew and people, and you kind of stick. I mean, that's how Amy and Ed and I have recently come together. We've recently found a different crew and kind of sticking together, and you pick out the ones of the group, and that's what we did in the military too.
Yeah,
is you kind of latch on to each other, and I'm in your wedding in a few months, so we just keep hanging out.
Exactly.
So, let's talk about some of the videography. And you didn't know you were going to do that. Is that something that you ended up liking doing? Have you followed that at all in your later life?
Yeah, no, it was totally interesting. And the way that I always kind of talk about it when it comes up is I always felt like I really wasn't in the military in a way, because the way that it was structured was you were constantly going and like attaching to different units and just kind of following them around. You're kind of like a small dog for a little bit, just kind of following the people that you needed to take pictures of. But it was totally awesome. I will say though, I mean, when I was stateside, it was much less exciting because most of the job was just recording ceremonies and some old guy that you don't know who's retiring and talking about his family for the last an hour, and you just hit recording. It's kind of boring. But when I was training or the deployments, that's when I feel like it was a little bit more gratifying. It paid off a lot more there because it felt like you were actually kind of doing what you were supposed to do. But it was really quite amazing. Both deployments. I know it's kind of strange to say. Some people might disagree with that a little bit, but I had a great time. I got to work for a lot of really great people, and when I was deployed, especially, just the things that you get to see, the things you get to do, were really, really it's memories for days. I can't speak highly enough of it. But the primary job that I had, at least what I was told, was you go and you document whether it's an operation or some mission or whatever it is, and you come back and you cut up the raw footage and you submit it to, at the time it was Warrant Officer Dimmer, I was submitting things to. He was up at First Meth when we were deployed, and so then he sends it over to the Pentagon, I believe, and whatever they do with it from there, I guess from my understanding was they just compile a bunch of things and make decisions based on kind of what they see, what we're doing firsthand on the ground. But, the amount of flying I got to do was amazing, sitting on the end of, different ramps with your feet kind of dangling off the back, ospreys, things like that. Just seeing everything from an aerial view was amazing. I got car sick or motion sickness. I can't even tell you how many times in an osprey. I was known as a guy who kind of always got sick. So some of the guys I got to see a few times, they were often asking me if I had, my puke bag with me. And after 2-3 times knowing that it was going to happen, I'd pull it out of my pocket and go, yep, I got it. I'm good. And so they were fine with it. But, you play the game, you give them a couple pictures of themselves looking pretty cool, doing some high speed stuff. And then they kind of invite you back a bunch of times. So it was easy once you figured out how it all worked. But yeah, I got to fly around. That was the majority of my job, was flying around, taking pictures from the air. The second time I went, I got the structure of things were changing. They were more, the mission was more focused on kind of leaving and getting out of Afghanistan and things like that. So they were actually combining, I think, meth, MAW, and division were starting to kind of overlap just a little bit. And I was very lucky. I got to go on a mission or a little operation for about a week and a half with a 3rd Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. So pretty easy stuff for the most part. It was just interrupting some drug trafficking along the Helmand River. And so we got to hike around and talk to some of the local people. And the corpsman I was with was a really good guy. We had the squad leader was a really good dude. And so seeing things from that perspective, got a lot of really good pictures from that side of things. Just overall, the experience was really, really good. But through the time, I kind of know that I wasn't going to re-enlist. So transitioning out, I didn't even know if I wanted to do camera work when I got out. Didn't know how to get into that. Didn't know I didn't really research any film schools. To be honest, I didn't know that I was even capable of doing that stuff when I got out. I didn't know what I was, qualified to do and things like that. So I ended up going to school for kinesiology and exercise science when I got out. I was really into working out and exercising and things like that. So that's kind of where my passion took me outside that. So really it was a great 5 years that I had. I thought I had an amazing job. It really was totally different than any military type thing. You got to do all the cool stuff without all the cool, without all the long, boring training, and so it was awesome. I got to go shoot a bunch of things and do a bunch of really neat stuff. But when I got out, it was time to switch gears and do something that I thought I was going to be a little bit more successful with.
That is a unique job. Amy, I don't know if you had much experience in your time with anything like that. I did, because I was in the same job as him, but it's unique.
Nope, I was weapons supply. So,
I guess
so what do you do now?
Now I am. I'm a PE teacher and a health teacher, and so that whole process was kind of interesting too. And it took a little bit to kind of get to that point. When I first got out, you go through a couple of separation classes. They give you a bunch of information and not a lot of direction, but they kind of just a week of just here's a ton of things, and you're not quite sure what to make of it. You don't really even know where to get started or who to talk to or how to file a claim or do any of those types of things. And so I was fortunate enough to work with a guy who he was pretty savvy with a lot of those things, got me in touch with a VA rep who was able to help me a lot with that. So I actually went to Miramar College for the first year when I was out, and I was in a kinesiology program for a short bit, kind of working through some of that stuff. And then I have a younger sister who's now 11, but at the time she was 2. And I kind of wanted to be a little closer to home. So I drove from San Diego to Chicago, moved home so I could see her grow up and be a part of her life a little bit, but I continued school. So I went to a smaller community college a little bit closer to home, so I didn't have to move again. So that was McHenry County College. So it was a nice little small school, much smaller than anything out in California, really. And I got my associates, and then I transferred to a 4-year school, and I got into a PE program. So I majored in physical education and exercise science, and I minored in education. So then I transitioned into the kind of that part of things. I was really just a student for the next 3-4 years after I got out. Actually, I was a bouncer at a nightclub in San Diego while I was going to school out there. Got my personal training certificate. So I was busy. I was busy, had a good time when I was out there. But I finished school out here, and then you got to take a bunch of tests and do a bunch of different things. These real long, big long portfolios you got to submit. You submit all that stuff to the state, someone you've never talked to. They look at you, they look at you and go, yeah, you'd be a good teacher. And then you get your teaching license. And then, then you're on the job hunt. You got to start applying for jobs and looking for references and interviews and all that good stuff. And I was super, super fortunate. My fiance, my future wife, Casey, she worked at a school, a private Catholic school, where she goes, hey, this teacher quit like in October, like right after the school year started. And she goes, you might want to apply for that. Because I was actually graduating in December. So it was either apply for that or probably sub the rest of the year. And then you're on the job hunt again the year after. So I applied for that. I was very lucky to get into that school. So I started teaching about a week before I actually had my bachelor's degree. So it was I was very fortunate the way that the puzzle kind of fell together. It was really a good situation. I didn't have to worry about subbing or anything like that. It was quite nice. So yeah, I started teaching. I teach all freshmen, and then I teach an exercise science class for seniors. So it's like predominantly weightlifting and biomechanics and kind of stuff like that. So the freshmen, though, it's all PE, and then I teach health half the year. So it keeps me busy. You learn all the new lingo, and I get they tell me what the T is every day. I don't know what the T is. So they fill me in on all the new lingo and kind of what's going on and all the drama. So I hear all sorts of crazy stuff. But it's a good time. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Is teaching something you had planned to do your whole life, or is it just something that fell?
I don't know. That's a good question, because I have no idea. I don't even know how to answer that. I think I had always liked the idea of teaching, but never really knew how to make that a reality. And then just kind of through the course of a lot of trial and error in college, I didn't really care for one-on-one personal training. I just felt I felt cheesy. I didn't really like doing it. I never felt like I had a connection with any of the clients or anything like that. And I worked at a big LA Fitness kind of a gym, so they just spoon feed you people over and over, and they kind of work you to the bone a little bit. So I was pretty turned off from the one-on-one kind of stuff. And then I didn't really know what to do. When I moved home, I called my old wrestling coaches, and I was really just looking for a way to stay active and looking for a free place to wrestle, and just kind of stay sharp with some of those things. And I like doing it. And they go, hey, like maybe you want to coach a little bit. They just kind of come hang around. And so I got into coaching. So I was coaching wrestling. I'm actually still doing it. This is my 8th year. But that kind of turned me on to the idea of teaching kids a little bit. And so then that sort of changed my path in college a little bit. So I went from more of an exercise science majored or focused direction to definitely more of an education based path. And so that's kind of where that sort of fell into place. And I had a really awesome advisor who was she had gotten her PhD in exercise science from like University of Illinois, which in Illinois is a really, really prestigious program. So she was super passionate about it. We got to do a ton of really neat things. And I got put into like these kindergarten classrooms and elementary classrooms. And the little kids were just, oh my God, that just makes you want to slam your face into a wall sometimes. The patience that you got to have is totally different. Short story on that. The very first student teaching I ever did was in a kindergarten at a Christian school. And this little kid, he couldn't have been taller than like 2.5 feet. He was just a little teeny guy. He comes up to me, grabs a Kleenex, blows his nose, smacks it into my hand, turns around, runs away. His shoe and his sock fall off. And then he just disappeared. Like he ran out into the hallway. You got to go chase the kid. But I was pretty sure at that point, like I'm a high school kind of guy. I got to teach the upper levels a little bit. But yeah, you finish school and then you start the hiring process and all that good stuff. But the kids are awesome. The high school kids are a ton of fun. They talk to you about all sorts of wild stuff, and you kind of relate to them a little bit. I'm not that much older than most of them, so I kind of get it. I think they still look at me as like I'm like the young cool guy. They don't look at me as like the old grumposaurus just yet. So they're a great bunch of kids. I'm super fortunate to be where I'm at now. But a lot of trial and error to kind of fall into that position, definitely.
Excellent. Ed, I'm pretty sure he's talking about you as grumposaurus over there.
Yeah, I'm sure he was. and you can keep telling yourself you're cool, and they think of you that age. That's
Yeah.
Keep telling yourself that.
I'm gonna hold out as long as I can. I'm sure they'll let me know when I'm past my time. So they're good about telling me the truth. Sometimes it hurts a little bit too much. They're super honest.
All right, so I'm gonna ask a question Matt always asks,
Sure.
which is, what do you still use today that you learned in the military?
Oh, it's a good question. A lot of it, I think, being in front of kids, a lot of it is just the discipline. You gotta keep on task with a lot of things, and it's mostly the accountability type stuff that you learn. Learning to manage your time, learning to be efficient, and just the discipline to just maintain that workflow. Because the second you stop paying attention to anything, the kids will totally take advantage of that. So really, the discipline that you learn, the kind of the drive to work, those are really some of the bigger things that I would say that really you got to keep up with, especially now. So it was a great foundation back back in those 5 years, really set up kind of what I'm doing now. But really, it's the confidence. Before I was a pretty quiet, reserved guy. I'm still kind of quiet. I don't think I'm the most outgoing person in the world, but I definitely am not afraid to stand in front of people and talk and things like that. It's a little bit more comfortable now. So the confidence that came from being in and, being able to kind of stand in front of the classroom and talk to a bunch of kids. And sometimes they call you out and you got to be ready to sort of stand your ground and things like that. But yeah, I would say the confidence, the discipline, the work ethic, the accountability, things that kind of go hand in hand, that really get drived into your face, early on, in boot camp and things like that. I think that's what sticks with you the most.
That's all I had. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good. Amy, anything from
It's been a
you?
busy day today. It's kind of hard to stay on task sometimes. So.
Yeah.
I agree. I think high school is my favorite group age kids to work with as well. And so it's nice to find other passionate people in that demographic, because I think it's amazing. A lot of times parents always volunteer in the elementary school age because everybody's still cute. And then you get one or two parents in the middle school. But when I volunteered in my kids as high school, I was the only parent, other than with sports programs. But so I think it's wonderful to have teachers that are passionate. And I imagine that your Marine Corps background probably gives you a little extra kudos for the kids.
They're curious. They're definitely curious. And they don't really know how to ask those questions. They're really timid. And so sometimes I find like I like to mess with them a little bit. Like the less is more. They go, oh, what did you? They always ask this, and it's the stupid. And the answer is no. But did you kill anybody? And I kind of go, that's not really an appropriate question to ask. And just by saying that, which is not a lie, like we're in a Catholic school, I probably shouldn't be talking about those things. That will just their imagination takes off, and all of a sudden you got rumors going around like Mr. Kuiper is this badass guy, and I'm like, I was a camera guy, like I took pictures, I had some fun and I got to do some cool things, but it's not what they think it is, but a lot of times you're kind of towing that line of like what's appropriate to say in front of a 14, 15-year-old kid, and then you find that you say a little bit less and they just make up these hilarious stories about you. And they start spreading them. And at one point last year during all this COVID stuff, we got shut down and all that stuff. I had an Instagram fan page that one of my students had made. And it just was ridiculous. And like, you guys are totally insane. Like, what are we doing here? So yeah, no, totally. It's pretty funny. They definitely take what you say and run with it and kind of make it their own, but they're totally entertaining about some of that stuff.
So basically you did shoot a lot of people.
In their minds I did.
No, with your camera.
Yeah, with the camera. Tons of them, really. I got all sorts of cool stuff.
There it is. Now it's out there. Tons
Casey,
of people.
It was a TikTok fan page.
Oh no, that was one of
this is his fiance, by the way.
Yeah, she's probably sitting downstairs on the couch laughing at me right now.
You do got a couple you got some love. Is this a mom? Stepmom?
Stepmom. But I've known her. She's, a mom too. I've known her since I was 10. So she's been around for 2/3, a little bit more than that of my life. So yeah.
Nice. Also, if you remember.
Oh yeah. Watts, but Brown. Yeah. Yeah. I see some of the stuff she's putting up on Facebook. She's busy. She's got a whole family and stuff now. And that's awesome. Most of the people I still am friends with on Facebook, even though I don't talk to them, it's nice to see a lot of their stuff. It's nice to see the direction that a lot of people go. Yeah, a lot of them seem to be super happy, super successful. So it's kind of nice to see that. You don't really want to see anybody that you spent a great deal of time with sitting, face down somewhere in a, gut or anything like that. So it's good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. This is what I remember.
Oh yeah. I'm all the way on the right there in the costume. That was handed down, I believe. I believe that costume stayed around for a couple of years afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. You might have been the one to tell me that. I feel like you were the one that kind of had the info on that, but that costume got handed down a couple of more times after me, so I don't even want to know what happened in it.
I heard they finally burned all of them.
They needed to. That's long overdue. That stuff needed to be burned a long time before we even had that stuff.
But that was a smelly fire.
Yeah, I can't imagine the odors that came off of that.
The best part about that photo is we knew we were having a fire drill. So we're like, we better dress appropriately for a fire drill.
We were the first ones out there. I'm surprised we didn't get in trouble for that, though. That could easily have been something like
there was some
I don't know.
There was some weird aura about like the things you and I did there at the schoolhouse that we didn't get in trouble that everybody else did.
We got away with more things than I care to admit. We got very lucky a couple of times, and probably partly because we were just there for so long. It was like, oh, that's just what they do. They're just those guys.
Yeah, they're just there. So we talked a little bit about some of the things you've learned and you've used in teaching. Now, is there anything that you on your transition that you wish you would have done or that you've missed? Like now that you've kind of transitioned and you're pretty sure this is what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is what I'm going to be doing. I mean, I really enjoy, getting up and going to teach and all that stuff. But, you're always looking to kind of move out of that. So I think, if I were to continue, I don't really want to leave the school system. I like being around the school and stuff. But being that I coach and I'm in charge of the weight room and I do all the strength and conditioning for, the football program and stuff like that at school too. Getting your master's degree in administration and kind of moving into that side of the school someday. That's definitely kind of a long-term goal, maybe like an athletic director, something along those lines. But I'm pretty sure, I mean, once I got to the 4-year school that I was in, the university I was at, and I was in my program and I was kind of going through the process of getting into the classrooms and teaching and talking to the kids and stuff like that, I was pretty sure of myself. And, you know, everyone has those days where, you know, I'm sure people who are transitioning, you question things, you know, here and there. You know, is this what I really want to be doing? Do I want to re-enlist? Do I want to go back? I kind of miss some of those things. I miss the camaraderie, that kind of stuff. But I was very fortunate. My fiance Casey, she was already teaching, so she was pretty stable and was like, no, don't forget you like to do this. Don't forget about the good days, and don't forget about this. You were talking about that and blah, blah, blah. So I was pretty sure overall that that's what I wanted to do. And I'm very happy. The people I get to work with daily are awesome. So it really no regrets in terms of that kind of stuff. Totally enjoy it.
Do you you talked when you were kind of explaining your journey from how you went to school, becoming a teacher, that kind of thing. You mentioned that you used the VA. Did you do schooling inside before the Marine Corps, or excuse me, before you transitioned out, or did you do it all outside using the VA and the GI Bill, I assume?
I was the typical guy who did all of it afterwards. And looking back, I was basically the Billy Madison of all of my classes, you know. So and that was the hard part. I think for me, that was the hardest part of college, was being, you know, 5, 6, 7 years older than most of the people I was in school with. But I did everything afterwards. You know, I used all of my GI Bill right afterwards, which paid for just about everything. So it was a super good deal, which if somebody's not using that, like, that's stupid. They pay you to go to school. It's a really, really awesome benefit. But yeah, I guess if I had to pick one regret of something I wish I would have done, probably doing some school while I was in. I made every excuse not to do school while I was in. Oh, well, we're going to Vegas, or we're going to this, or we're going to do that, or we're having fun here, or I'm busy, or I'm going to train for a week in 29 Palms, or whatever it is. You make a lot of excuses not to do school, and I wish I would have taken advantage of some of those benefits while I was in. It probably would have, I don't know that it would have altered my direction, maybe a little bit, but it would have just sped things up a little bit. So I wasn't, you know, drawing blue ducks in school, you know, with all the kindergartners, you know, it was, but I did everything afterwards. And really it was an easy system. You know, you just kind of, I had a really good VA rep at all the schools that I was at. You go and you tell them what classes you're going to take, and they really handled everything. I just did a little bit of paperwork that I had to turn in before the semesters started, and they sent it off to the regional office, and everything gets processed really slow because that's the VA. And then, yeah, like it was no problem. It was an easy system to get into. But I did everything after, and I wish I would have probably taken a couple of the easier classes early on just to have them out of the way.
Like bowling.
Bowling, yeah. Actually, I took a dance class. I had to take a dance and a yoga class. I did. So, yeah, would have gotten those ones out of the way.
That is what I would love to see. Well, I'll see it at your wedding, hopefully.
No footage of it. No footage.
No footage.
Deleted. It's archived.
That's excellent. So I'm going to also lean on Ed and Amy too, because if I just keep going, it's going to be like two boys chatting like it's been, and we chat all the time.
Yeah, Amy's the one sitting back not asking questions. So
I know.
I think I asked more questions than Ed. I don't know. But okay. So you talked about you would have taken more classes in school. I always think that's wonderful thoughts, but I don't know that if somebody said to take, because you had those opportunities that we really would have. We just know we should have later in life. Is there anything that you use specifically with your service now? Like not necessarily in your kids, but maybe in your daily life that you continue to do that you started in the service or learned from the service?
Like weird little like habits or things that I used to do.
Sure.
You had some bad habits?
Oh, I was not a model for me by any stretch of the imagination. I had my good days. I saved face, but like any good young man, you're trying to skirt the system as much as you can, I guess. I had my skates on for about a year there. Probably the last year I was skating around doing everything I could to get out of work. But I don't know that there's anything specific that I still do. That's a solid question. If I think of something, I'll come back to it. But I don't think that there's anything I still do that I started doing while I was in.
I can lead you into one.
Let's see, maybe.
So, do you still use deodorant for what most people don't use it for?
Oh no, I got the neck beard going. So weird story, but you got to shave every day, all this good stuff. When I was in Maryland and I was starting to get bad razor burn along, your neck because you're shaving all the time. And I probably didn't know how to shave and was doing it wrong and making it worse. But Matt comes up and he goes, you got to take deodorant. And if you just put deodorant on your neck, you don't get razor burn. I'm like, that's so stupid. And sure as shit, it works. Like, it works. No problem at all. Like, he completely changed the next 5 years with that silly thing. So I guess, yeah, actually, I still do that whenever I do trim the beard and my neck and all that stuff. Just a little bit of Old Spice. You get a little nice musky smell on your neck, and it keeps the fiance happy. She comes, she's happy about that. Smell kind of manly for a couple of hours before the BO comes back. How guys are.
As someone that shaves my head a lot, it's still every time.
It works. I don't know how it works, but it works. It's a good thing. Not you can't have the stuff with aluminum in it. Just regular deodorant, not the antiperspirant stuff. Just regular deodorant. That's the key. It's
important.
But yeah, I guess if that's probably the only thing I still do specifically. I'm sure there's weird little tics and habits and stuff that I probably do, just don't realize it.
Did you work out a lot before? Because after you've won strongman competitions. So was that a Marine Corps thing or a you thing?
I think it was more, I enjoyed fitness while I was in the direction, like the Marines were all kind of going towards HIIT training. It was like their version of CrossFit. And a couple of the guys that I worked with, Jeff Anderson, Patrick Fussell. I don't know if any of those names ring a bell to you, but actually Sergeant Anderson, Jeff Anderson, you might have crossed paths with. They were super big into CrossFit. And I was like, that's stupid. I don't want to do CrossFit. But they ran our PT stuff, and I was pretty stubborn. I was in good shape just because of wrestling, and I kind of like doing a lot of that kind of combat sort of stuff. So I tried it out. It wasn't really for me, but I just enjoyed working out. When I got out, though, I started getting into Olympic style weightlifting. And so that had a lot of carryover between that and wrestling. There was a lot of mechanical similarities, and a lot of the movements kind of conceptually felt the same. So I enjoyed doing that. It was a way to stay in shape. And, the workouts were short, so that was appealing for the most part. But I met this guy, Quint Zambin, who was he actually is a lightweight strongman who competed at the Arnold Strongman Classic a couple of times. He competed at the World's Strongest Man in his weight class, and he had seen me kind of doing the Olympic stuff, and he goes, "Hey, I'm going to be out of town competing at the Arnold's. Can you take over a couple of my clients for a few days?" I said, "Sure, no problem." So I was back into the personal training, kind of off, a little bit here and there, just helping him out while he was on the road. But he came back and he kind of coached me up a little bit. So I got into strongman, and I did a couple of small local competitions. He hosted one. I took second in my first competition. The next two were smaller competitions, kind of out by Western Illinois University. They were kind of out there a little bit. I had good luck with, the events. They were kind of more what I was good at, more moving and things like that. So I happened to win 2 contests in a row, and I qualified for the national tournament, which I didn't go to the first time. I don't know if I was too nervous or just maybe kind of didn't really feel like making the journey out to New York that year. But the following year I qualified again, and I decided it's worth it. I should probably go and compete at the national tournament just to say I've been there, just to see it. And holy cow, that was an incredible experience too. There's a couple videos up on Instagram and Facebook. I'm sure if you're digging them up, you could probably find them. But yeah, it was amazing. It was like 400 plus some competitors. The bracket that I was in, I think was the biggest of the day. There was like about 62 or 63 people just in my weight class alone. And I did about as average gets. I finished right at like 21 out of 63. So I was happy with it. I was pretty sure I wasn't going to take first. There's a big difference between the very top guys and the very bottom guys. And I right in the middle. So I was happy with it. It was a good experience. Ton of fun. I still do that kind of stuff now, just in my garage at home. And, I think I piss some of the neighbors off because you get a little Metallica going too loud or something like that. I don't know if they always are down for Hootie and the Blowfish blasting out into the parking lot or the cul-de-sac, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. That's how it goes.
Fantastic. Anyone that's just tuning in, thanks for joining. We're talking to Marcus Kuiper, who's a Marine veteran who's did 2 tours in Afghanistan. Now he's a teacher. So if you're tuning in, thanks for joining us. And if you have questions, comments, throw them up. Rocky Mountain High, hello. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
One of the things, I got to apologize real quick. I didn't even realize I did this, but when you asked me to be on the podcast and you were talking about veterans and stuff, I watch a lot of the Joe Rogan podcasts, and I noticed one key thing with all the veterans that he has on it is they wear a T-shirt that's too small and it says grunt style. So I'm sorry I didn't come and play the part. I needed to maybe tighten this up a little bit, really show off my curves. I need to be better about that. I did not come to play. I apologize. I put a stain on your podcast. I'm sorry.
I got 9 line.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Veteran. That's how it goes. I don't know that I own any grunt style stuff. I feel like most of the stuff I own is just kind of this weird
Star Wars
from Target,
Target.
Star Wars.
Exactly. I got a lot of Star Wars t-shirts.
Yeah. You're a teacher. You need stuff that appeals to the kids.
Exactly. A lot of them have they know the new stuff, but you make references to the older movies and they have no idea. It's you date yourself unknowingly so much.
I can't even watch the older movies anymore. They're so bad, right?
The
special effects are so bad. I can't even watch those ones.
I do fall into that. I don't know that I'm necessarily a movie snob, but I like the nice CGI stuff. So even older movies, I know that I do like. It is hard to watch because I'm like, that doesn't look good anymore. You get so spoiled with all the new computer graphics and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Okay, so I have a question from the volunteer-holic. Do you do any volunteer work now?
I really don't. It's so busy with school and things like that. I do so much coaching outside of school that I really haven't gotten into any of the volunteer work. And to be honest, it hasn't really crossed my mind too much. And I don't know what that says about me, but I enjoy working out with the kids and coaching and doing stuff like that. So that's kind of where a lot of my free time goes, is kind of back to the students and things like that.
Well, that's volunteering for real. It is. It's mentoring and it's relationship building, and that's still volunteering, even if it's not through an agency, even if it's not a program. That's still volunteering.
Thank you.
So thank you for doing that.
Well, you really, Marcus, you went from 2 lives of service. You went from serving in the military and Marine Corps, serving your country, and now you are serving your community, the students, the kids. So to Amy's point, don't sell yourself short, man. You're doing a lot, and it's kind of volunteering because teachers don't get paid for as much of work. I know you do. Well, maybe Casey does more than you, but
she's so much busier than I am. She's so much busier.
So is this any better? Sorry.
Much better.
Yeah. So I have my radio show tomorrow. I was like, I forgot to send that Zoom link out. So I was doing that, and then so Zoom was up at the same time, so it took away half the volume. I apologize for doing other work during volunteer hours.
Hey, we're all busy. We're all crazy. I'm sure we're keeping Marcus from some important student thing right now.
No, I think what time is it? It's like 6 o'clock or something like that. No, it's probably just, I don't know, like SVU or something, Law and Order. I got to catch up on something like that. We're all big into the Stabler stuff coming back. We're all super into that right now.
Nice.
No papers to grade, none of that stuff for health.
No. It's towards the end of the year right now. It's just we're getting used to getting ready for finals. We got about 2 weeks of school left, and then they take their tests, and off for the summer we go. So depending on how each teacher does a little something different. I kind of like, we're not going to have any big projects towards the end. We're going to kind of wind down a little bit. So tried to make their life easy towards the end of the year, and mine as well. It's been a long year. Been a long year with all this COVID stuff.
Definitely.
Yes,
Well,
it
thanks for all you continue to do as a teacher, serving Marine Corps, serving as a teacher in your community. And I want to ask one other question here.
Mhm.
How, if you're going to give advice to someone getting in, your sister's 11, you work with students, what would you tell them about serving in the military? Would you recommend it? How would you help guide them? Do you have advice for folks like that?
Yeah, I would honestly, and I this has happened a little bit. My goddaughter actually just finished boot camp in the Army. She's going to go to, she's in AIT now, but she actually is going to go to Monterey, California, and I think she's going to be a linguist and study Russian. So we had a lot of really good talks about getting in and things like that. And the big thing I always told her early on was, do your homework, ask questions, ask people who have been in, get a variety of experiences, because a lot of it really is luck of the draw. I was so fortunate to not have to PCS, to be in California the whole time, as hard as California was,
Can't help
I would say,
sorry.
Yeah. I would say just do your homework, ask people questions and figure out what you want to do at the end of that. Do you want to stay in or do you want to get out? And if you want to get out, the big advice that I would probably give you is, if you're hell-bent on going in and it's only going to be temporary, get a skill. Have the Army, have the Marines, have the Navy teach you something that you can utilize afterwards. I every now and again I come across students, I want to be in the infantry. I'm like, okay, well, unless you go to college and do a completely lateral move or into something else, your options are primarily law enforcement related. So the biggest advice would be, like, do your homework, because every branch has different things to offer, different benefits. The structure is different. The people are different. The vibe is just overall different. So do your homework, talk to all the recruiters. I didn't do that. Now I don't regret not doing that. I'm very fortunate how my time played out, but I do feel I was incredibly lucky too for all 5 of those years. Just being a camera guy, I could have media option. What is media option when I went in? It could have been anything. So yeah, do your homework when you're going in and make sure it's something you really want to do, because once you sign that paper, it's really hard to undo that. And I'm sure that there's different ways that if it really was something you shouldn't be doing, I'm sure you could get out of it. But if you're going to go in, do the homework, and then have them give you a skill that you can utilize when you get out. I think that's the most important thing, is setting yourself up for success afterwards. Whether it's a 3, 4, 5 year contract where it's active, or you do 20, 30, or even 40, give yourself a fighting chance when you get out. I think that's a hugely important thing, but also just live in the moment too. Looking back at it, it's very cliche, but they always tell you, pay attention to the last time you take your uniform off. And like, that sounded so stupid back then, but looking at it now, we just bought a house last year. I have all my uniforms hanging up in one of the spare bedrooms, and every now and again I'm cleaning or doing something, you flip through them and like, you just get flooded with memories and stuff. So, sometimes the time goes really quick. Just live in the moment and sort of enjoy the time for what it is, because it's once in a lifetime. You meet a lot of amazing people, and then you get opportunities like this to talk to other like-minded people and people who have had other really good experiences. And it's a community of awesome people that come together over time, and it never leaves you, and you continue to meet people who have had similar experiences, and it's amazing. So do your homework, set yourself up for success afterwards. It pays off in the long run. It really does.
And what branch did your goddaughter choose?
She is in the Army. She is.
She
just wanted you to say it again.
Yeah, I know. I believe
that's okay. She was in the Army first, and then went in the Navy. So
yeah.
When you go in the Army first and then the Navy, you can't bring up the Army anymore. You gave up on it.
Yeah,
I think I did.
And that'd be like you calling your ex-husband and you have a new husband, right?
Well, it is important to remember that she's married to a Marine, so that she's kept the balance.
But I believe he's in the Air Force now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
See,
that's
that's
right.
the
You
problem.
changed out.
Yeah, the whole house can't decide where they want to be.
Your whole house has all the services covered.
Except
Right,
for,
with two
well, we
people.
don't have
With two
space.
people.
We don't have any space cadets or coasties.
Yeah. Well, we said military. We said service.
Yikes.
Just kidding. We like the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Someone has to be there.
Definitely. They keep us safe.
Yep. Especially that one that was on the submarine. Did you ever see that video where he's on the submarine trying to get it open when it was all the smugglers, the Coast Guard that was on that? That was amazing. So I will give him props for that.
That was pretty dope.
Yeah.
For sure. Anything else, Ed, Amy, for Marcus here tonight?
No, I just want to bring up where he's talking about, our stories, right? Because we had Tom Brown on earlier this week. I can't remember. My week runs
Last
together.
week.
Was it last week? Yeah, sorry, I tell you. And he's 74-year-old, and he was in, he told his story of Vietnam and all the way through his 26-year career, which was amazing. We all have amazing stories that for the military we were in, and we need to tell those stories, and that's why we do this. Besides the stories, talk about transition and how we can help other vets transition. And I just wanted to bring that up because it's so important for us to help other vets.
Yeah. So thank you, Marcus, for sharing your stories because someone's going to learn from it.
I hope so. No, thank you guys for having me. This was a lot of fun. This is pretty neat. I had never used this program. I had no idea how all this was going to work. This is really cool. I like doing this. I'd be happy to come back, and when I'm feeling a little bit better, maybe I could be a little bit more entertaining and like that. So yeah, tell some stories of your weird stuff, running around in sombreros in the barracks and kind of things. So
just if you have pictures, just send the pictures.
Well, I talked about this when I talked to him last night prepping for this show, or when I asked him to be on. I'm glad, or my wife brought it up. I'm glad we didn't have social media, wasn't that big, and we didn't have iPhones like we do now, because we don't have, thankfully, a lot of the pictures of the things that we did.
Yeah. Oh, we would have been in a lot more trouble, I think, had we had some of those things.
Well, and there is one funny story. Ed brought it up, so I'm going to have you tell the story of how you and I used to give people stories every morning.
Oh, yeah, the Brownwater and Greenville newspaper. Yeah, so, we get up super early. It's the one headline that I'll never forget. But, yeah, we used to get up, super early, go for runs. And at that time, I was always I think we were in pretty good shape. Eat like a whole pizza and a 2-liter Mountain Dew the night before you get up, and you can still go run 10 miles. I don't think I could do that now, but when we would get back from those really long runs or whatever, and everyone's kind of shuffling around to the bathrooms, we would sit out. Actually went to some mall. I don't even remember where it was. And we bought a bunch of really ridiculous robes, and we would sit out in the hallway in like these lawn chairs and drink pop out of coffee mugs and read the one newspaper that we could get a hold of. We would just read the same headline to people as they walked by over and over. And I think it was funny in the beginning, but I think it started to probably get on people's nerves a little bit towards the end. But yeah, whatever was going on in Greenville, there was brown water. So I don't know what all that was about. I never read the article, only ever read the headline to people walking by as they were getting ready to take a shower. But we'd be sitting out there in, I think, flip-flops, a robe, and drinking Mountain Dew out of like a Marine Corps mug at, 5 a.m. or something like that in the hallway. It was totally silly. Totally
Carbonation is the key to hydration. Right?
I thought so at the time. I still believe it.
Well, and I only bring that up because it's one of those, whenever you're in the situation, that's what I think we've all learned in the military. You learn to make the best of where you are and wherever you are. And you've been in a lot different situations than that. I'm sure now looking back how easy that was compared to other things you've done, like throwing up in the back of a helicopter.
That's just more, excuse me, more embarrassing than anything else. Having to do that in front of a crew chief that you never met, and you're like, oh God, here we go.
Fantastic. Well, Marcus, thanks for joining tonight and sharing your story. Ed, Amy, last chance, anything from you all?
I'm good.
Excellent.
Marcus, thank you so much for sharing your story. Really
thank you guys for having me. It was a great time.
Definitely. And folks, Marcus, don't hang up when we're done. Everyone out there, thanks for tuning in. If you're on YouTube watching right now, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us some love. If you're listening to this later on whatever platform you are, subscribe, share Helping the Brave. We are here to not only share people's stories or maybe share your story, but also help people who are in some form of transition in their life, veterans. And so let them know we exist. We're here to help. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Yes.